This is the Three Skeevers podcast.
All right, episode 43 of the Three Skeevers podcast. I'm Icy with Icyfire Gaming, and we have Grim with Grimsforge Gaming. I'm gonna edit that out. How you doing, Grim?
Good. How are you?
Awesome. Okay, so we're episode 43 now. It's been I think like 2 months, 3 months since our last. Actually, has it been more than that? I think it has been more than that because the last episode was before New World, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Shoot. Okay, so probably September. Wow, so it's been a while. I never really left. I've always kept playing ESO and kind of still doing my thing and trying to grow the channel and stuff like that. But what's up with you, Grim? How is this a return to Grimsforge Gaming, or what's your plan for 2022 with your channel and stuff like that?
I don't know that I have much plans for the channel. It depends on, it kind of depends on what people ask for. Like right now, I have maybe 3 people I'm working with, training them for PvP and stuff. So that, we're doing that. I can tell you that I was just on a podcast with Nephis, and it made me think about a lot of things that are going on in the game and stuff. And then you and I spoke about actually getting the podcast going again. So, and I thought that, there's a lot of interesting things going on right now with ESO. So why not? I don't know that I'm going to do content anymore on my channel. I don't know about that. We'll have to see. Depends on what people want to see, I guess. When I do the lobby stuff, and that's fun for me, and I don't have to deal with a bunch of proc set BS, and I can make off-meta thematic builds and put it to music. That's fun for me. But I get a lot of slack for that, that type of play. Like, oh, you're just going in and beating up on lobbies, and it's like, yeah, but in-game right now, it's just not really a fun or healthy PvP environment in Battlegrounds most of the time. And I have been having a lot of fun in Imperial City. Like, I think just my first day back, Papa and I went out and killed like a 20-man group, and then another 20-man group, and then a 15-man group, and, performance was okay. And Imperial City has been very busy over the last 2 weeks. I told Nephis that too, because he said Imperial City's dead, but there's been a lot of PvE guilds down there, and the PvP up top is, you have some of the best small scalers running the districts, and a lot of fun group fights. So I don't know. We'll have to see. It kind of depends on what, if a lot of people are like, who cares what everybody says? Just make lobby fun stuff, do that. And I make the CP stuff too. It's just I end up having less enjoyable time running into broken stuff that's in the game. So
Yeah, and you never know how performance is gonna be, because I remember even just a couple of weeks ago, it was me and Pop Up and Cyril, and we had a like a 2-3 hour session where performance was actually perfect. Everything felt awesome, and I couldn't believe it. I still think even to this day it was a dream, and it hasn't really happened again since. But we were talking about it that night. I was like, man, just imagine if the game was always like this. Oh man, I think I'd probably say well, I don't want to go too far and say it would be the best game ever, but it would be. I would never leave. I would always come back to ESO every single day because performance would be flawless in those moments. But it
yeah.
was just a one-time thing, and we're this particular episode we are going to talk about the all the PvP, let's see, news that's been going on lately, the PvP update that Matt from Zos released. We'll also talk about the Gina's tweet about the communication thing, and also cover the small little video clip from Rich's wife. What's his Twitch channel? Is it slash lurk, something like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I just know, yeah, Rich Lambert, and it was his wife, right?
Yeah. So we'll cover a bunch of those things. Okay. But oh, dude, I love the episode that you did with Nephis, and watching that, I watched the whole 3 hours, which kind of surprised me a little bit, but it was really entertaining, and I hope a lot of people appreciate like all the knowledge that you're able to drop and stuff, being like a coach in real life and kind of translating all that knowledge into the game. Because like you were saying, a lot of the stuff from like the MMA world actually translates over to PvP, because at the end of the day, you're fighting other people, whether it be in game or out of game. So a lot of correlation there, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, makes me wonder how many people are like boring. You know, like it's pretty easy, my guy. You put Plague Break on and then just go Bert, you know, and things die. So yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, so do you want to start off with the Gina's comment?
Yeah. Are you able to read that? I don't have it pulled up.
Yeah. So December 28th, Gina Bruno left a tweet that said, "Let's talk about communication. I always see people saying they want better communication from dev teams, but what does that really mean to you? How do you define communication? What types of things are you typically looking for? And where are you looking for it?" Do you want to shed your comments first, Grim?
Yeah. We talked about that on Nephas's podcast, but communication is like a two-way street. And I think that, you know, the kind of cancel culture that we're experiencing a little bit, and maybe that's too harsh of a statement. Maybe it's not legitimate cancel culture, but the adminning of the ESO forums is, it gives the impression of that, right? Like anytime anything's posted in the forums that is controversial or has to do with PvP and changes and asking questions and trying to get details, ends up getting removed or deleted. And you know, some people even went as far to say that, well, there's devs that have alternate accounts. I was reading this and they're like, they're literally going in and putting comments that are getting the posts removed. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, that seems a little bit too much tinfoil hat. But
I mean, honestly, on that particular comment, I got a buddy, Shiro. He's got 5 Twitch accounts that he
yeah,
uses to help, boost friends, right? Like follow, to help grow their channel, things like that. So it doesn't surprise me if that was a particular case, whether you're saying with devs actually liking their own posts and things like that.
yeah,
But, for me to have multiple accounts, I think I have like maybe, I only have 1 Twitch account, but even like for YouTube, I got maybe 2 YouTube accounts, but I don't go around upvoting or doing anything like that. The other one's just disabled, doesn't even do anything. So it's just so much extra work for something that just seems to me so ridiculous.
yeah. It's the forums. The problem is when a lot of people have a platform to state their opinion, then the real answer gets clouded. I think like what the real root of the evil is. We need to isolate that, figure out what the exact problem is, and then let's propose or let's offer like 4 viable answers or solutions, and then let's go with the best, I guess, out of that. But instead, it's everybody fighting amongst each other and arguing amongst each other, and then a hardcore PvEer comes in and gets mad and says, why does PvP get to dictate all the changes in this game? You guys are toxic. And then, the casual toxic person comes in and says, you're all elitist, you're all a bunch of idiots. And, and then an in-gamer comes in and just says, hey, let's not talk about that, what you guys are talking about. Let's actually stay on point. Here's the problems, here's the pain points, let's fix this. And then somebody's like, of course you would say that. You're a toxic in-game elitist and you're trying to, get my voice, silenced. Yeah. And it's just like so stupid. It's just a room full of kids, it's like herding cats, like I don't know how that happens. So they need to shut it down. The ESO forums, as far as comments go, and make it a thumb up or thumb down thing. And if you're in support of the majority of the comment, then hit a thumbs up. And the more thumbs up should raise a flag or, put a beacon out there to the devs like there's a hot topic. It's got 5,000 thumbs ups or 10,000 thumbs ups. Let's look into this one. And there's probably some viability or whatever you want to call it, to this one. Let's get this taken care of. And so, or if there were a way to do a poll, don't let people have their own voice in explaining their belief on why and how, and then the arguments start. Just do a basic poll, and it says, out of these 5 things, which should take priority? Fixing take flight, fixing weapons underneath us, fixing, and make them things that are realistic. Like, you can't put fix lag, because we already know that's going to be a year, 2-year, 3-year adventure. So, but what can we do today or tomorrow? Let's get the weapons out from under our feet. Let's take flight work. Let's fix block. Make block work properly. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and I don't see anything wrong with taking some time to fix the small things, right? Those quality of life improvements that people would appreciate. Because I know for myself, I know we were talking about this, I think yesterday or something like that, but every time I go into a BG, the first thing I do is I cast my Radiating Regeneration, bar swap, and maybe throw an energy orb or something. And I check to see, hey, am I surfboarding right now? Because I don't want to see my Radiating Regeneration sourcing from my feet. I want to see it above my head with my staff in my hand instead. And, I don't complain. I don't really make a noise or anything. I just say, okay, I go into my inventory and then I just manually unequipped and re-equipped, and then the problem's fixed, no problem. But something like that would go a long way, because I enjoy the game. I enjoy the game every day. I'll go as far as to say, I don't really have the same issues that most people have, because I don't have problem trying to dizzy swing somebody, because I don't use a two-hander. I just resto heavy attack, and it's pretty easy, pretty simple. But for the other things where, like I was just saying, the surfboarding on my weapons, that would go a long way, because that would easily hold me over a whole year while they work on restructuring the game, which we'll get to later. But just the small things, I think, would help a big part of the community, because with what they want to do, it's going to take some time, and I think it would go a long way to be like, hey, yeah, we're listening and we're working on these particular things, and just showing some improvement, I think, would be pretty awesome. And especially in regards to what Gina was saying with the communication thing, I responded back, and I didn't get any response because it was near the tail end of that whole wave and stuff. I just said on mine, I think it's just consistency and detail. If you gave us a bone like once a week or every other week on things that are going on behind the game, like active projects, successes, failures, etc., I know I'd certainly appreciate it. And I never had a problem with anything that they were saying in any of their updates at all. I always liked seeing the updates, but for me it was more, hey, when's the next update? When's the next update? Because I love seeing the updates. Even if it's something a little bit ridiculous, I'm like, okay, they're fixing the game. Okay, they're hammering in some nails that are sticking out a bit. They're washing windows, things like that. I like to see progression in some way. What I don't like to see is, why is the laundry making so much freaking noise? How come nobody called anybody to get this fixed yet? Right? Like, why are all these small issues starting to snowball and get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? I just want improvements on small things. And I'd like an update maybe every 2 weeks, 2 times a month. I don't think that's too hard. Whether you say something small, I'd appreciate it. I'd be all right.
Yeah.
That would certainly hold me over, no problem.
Yeah. Another thing about it too, like, let's take this surfboarding on your weapons thing. We're not developers, but when you said it earlier, let's take that small step, right? And let's get that at least fixed. When it's not we don't know how difficult it will be to fix that, right? But in everyone's eyes, that's smaller problem compared to all the other problems, like tackling lag and maybe even fixing take flight and whatever, or fixing the stamina bug. Some people still have it where they have 0 stam regen, and block mitigation, stuff like that. There's probably some serious coding issues that need to be rewrote. It sounds like it, after reading Matt's thing. But when they don't fix surfboarding your weapons over an extended period of time, like a year, then that, I mean, everyone is within their right to say they don't care.
Right.
You know, it's been going on for a year, they don't care. Or worse, they don't know how to. If they don't have a steady line of communication with us, then how do we know that, you know, that it is, hey, we are working on it, getting the weapons out from under your feet, the surfboarding on your weapons thing. It's just a little proven to be a little bit more difficult than anticipated. You know, that's what we're talking about. There's zero communication on it. All we know is that the weapons have been under our feet for a year now, you know? So, I don't know.
A quick gym analogy, right, Grim? Since you're obviously in that space, what's something that if a customer walked in and they were like, why is this still here? Why is, you know, can you give me like some example like of a gym thing where it's a relatively small issue that like for whatever reason the owners refuse to fix?
Yeah, that's funny you bring that up. There's another gym here in town. And it's been around for quite a long time, and it trains fighters, right? It would be considered a quote unquote fighters gym. And the people that train there for the longest time have been complaining about the cleanliness of the gym. And one of the individuals, husband and wife, who were just staying after to help clean the gym themselves. You know, they were going to be proactive, and they stumbled across some needles, you know, some syringes while cleaning the gym. Yeah, right. You know, and so it was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back in that moment, because they were like, we've been complaining about this gym not being cleaned in a long time, and it's been falling on deaf ears. And I was up in the air about making this post, and when we found these, we've decided to make this post, you know? So that's another thing of lack of communication, also lack of follow through, but it's lack of communication when only one side is making a recommendation. The customer is making a recommendation, and the person providing the service is not tailoring their business to what their customer is asking, right? And, you know, I don't know how long you stay in business when you don't tailor to your client base, you know, and you don't have to be completely compliant, but lines of communication allow you to come to an understanding, at least, of what you can and can't do, what's acceptable, what doesn't make sense, and why. So that would be best way. Like, if you're looking for better communication, start with communication. You know, like,
Right.
you know, that's the start. And then B, listen to what they're recommending, the paying customers recommending, and then put a priority list together of those items, and then put a timeline together on which one of them can be taken out, or, you know, knocked out at a quicker, you know, the low-hanging fruit is what it's called. You know, which ones are the low-hanging fruit? They're the easier ones to take care of or to grab, you know, and start knocking those off the list. And I don't know a whole lot of people that care when the patch notes come out and we move this rock, or, you know, this rock is no longer floating in the air, or this NPC's mouth now moves along with the dialogue, or whatever. It's like, cool. I mean, we're still surfboarding on our weapons. Take flight doesn't work. Like, you're doing things, and that's another pain point for paying customers. You're doing things, it's just all the wrong things, you know? So
Yeah, I feel like it'd be as if I join a gym and it's either the staff, they're dressed inappropriately, or they're wearing like dirty clothes, and or like say the mats don't get cleaned. But hey, it's the only gym in town, and the gym's pretty good, but it would make me think that they're just not in a good area, or maybe they don't make enough money to fix these small things. But even then, right? How much would it actually cost to, you know, get your staff a new set of set of t-shirts, whatever, right, that say, hey, I work here, some, you know, something like that. But obviously, you know, I'm just trying to use some poor example to tie it to ESO, right? I don't know what it would entail to fix the surfboarding. I'll just stick with that one. But if an add-on can do it, just take some time to figure it out. Because, you know, like I was saying before, it would go a long way, I think. But
Yeah, I think communication. If she wants a real line of communication, then I don't know what her job title, or not her job title, but her job description is. And when you have so many people saying you need to do this and you need to do that, and everybody arguing with each other, and the level of toxicity, like even Rich Lambert says, I don't like going to the forums, you know. So they obviously have third party people handling the forum situation, and they're mishandling it, you know. Like, you need to make it to where there's too many voices currently, and that's a problem. Like, and then there's going to be someone out there who's like, why are you trying to get my voice taken away, you know? And it's like, I'm just saying, when somebody submits a problem and they can verify it or talk about it, and I guess that's another topic as well, but say Real Godzilla says, here's 4 things that we would like to see, you know, coming from his perspective, he shouldn't be argued with that by other paying customers. Like, maybe it's not a problem for them, but it will be a problem for other people. So just simply put a thumbs up or thumbs down and see how much traction his posts get. Real traction. Hopefully there's no way to manipulate the thumbs ups and thumbs downs, but yeah, I don't know.
I feel like that would kind of open up a can of worms where, because I'm not really a fan of forums in general. I would always usually go to Reddit. I've never played a game that I actually utilize the forums to benefit me in any way like that. But it almost sounds like we would need YouTube, not YouTube, but content creators, or I'll put in quotes, famous people to help carry the message across, right? Because they have the influence to, hey, can you guys go over here and update and just upvote my post here, right? Maybe, but then even then,
Right.
I'm not even sure if that's allowed or not, right? Because don't you get flagged or something for trying to promote your own thing?
Yeah. Did you like the idea that I was telling Nephis about, hey, get the other class reps together? So, yeah, not all 10 of them or whatever can show up at a given time or whatever, but if even only 2 or 3 of them show up, you've got a podcast there, and just have whatever topics, you know, the pain points for the public as a whole, and they can go through PvE as well. Like, here's the 4 biggest problems in PvE right now, you know, that we're running into, voted on by my viewers. And maybe each one of the class reps on their YouTube channel, on their community board, they put the poll there, or they put the poll in their Discord, and then you gather up all the results from every class rep, and you'll be able to, in PvE, what's the 4 biggest problems right now that need to be addressed, and then you do the same for PvP. Do you remember when I was talking to him about that, like using the class rep system to be the platform or voice for the masses to communicate with devs?
Yep, yeah, I remember, and I liked the idea a lot.
Yeah, I he didn't seem very interested, and I feel like, you know, he's really burnt out on PvP too, right? Because he's like, it doesn't work half the time. You know, the first CC you take, sometimes you can't break free, and you die, and
Right.
you know, performance
And
and lag. But
I'm thinking about it just now, just like you bringing it back up again, and I'm trying to think, how would it even actually work, right? Like, is it a practical approach to do it like that? Because say we get this round table, right? We send out 10 invites, 2 people show up. Okay, great, no problem. But then I feel like to actually have results, though, the class reps would need to have actual pull in what actually gets done. And I don't think that's currently the case right now. And that's kind of, for me, I love the idea, but I just don't see it actually being successful. Because say we have like a monthly meeting with class reps, and the guys in September never showed up in October, but we have a new set of guys in October, and maybe they have different issues, or we just bring up the issues, or we do. It's not like a town hall meeting, right, in your local wherever you live, and you're just like, hey, so what's been done here, right? We don't have it. We're not like taxpayers. I mean, yeah, we pay for the game, I guess, in a way, through ESO Plus, if you even pay for the game. But that's kind of what I see as the issue. We can have all these meetings all we want, but if we don't actually see results, then we're just kind of having the same repetitive thing over and over again, and nothing gets done.
Yeah. So the thing about the class reps is it doesn't matter whether they have pull or not. They have station or they have a platform. They have an open line of communication with the devs. That's it. Because the forums are not an open line of communication with the devs. Like, they'll even tell you themselves they don't like going there or won't go there, right? And if you go there, you're not going to get a clear-cut message anyways. It's everybody arguing with everybody about what the biggest problem in the game is, and this person's toxic, and why are you trying to silence me, and stuff like that. There's way too much noise over there. Like in the gym industry.
Oh, great! Before you do, I just had a crazy idea.
Yeah.
So, because I have Gina's tweet pulled up here, and as you were talking, it kind of sparked this thing. I'm thinking Gina, the way her position should probably be is the class reps, they meet together, whatever. But part of this round table, like, we should say we're gonna host a round table, right? Like our Three Skeevers podcast, and we bring these guys on. Technically, I feel like Gina should be the one who's bringing these class reps together, say once a month, okay? And then she pulls in all their ideas, okay? And then they narrow it down to, say, the top 5, the top 3, okay? Or better yet, maybe like a jury system, right? Nobody's leaving this meeting until we have one thing that we want to improve, okay? Or at least put some sort of dedication, okay? And we'll say it's the smallest thing. Back to the surfboard, okay? Say that's what they agree upon, right, for January, okay? Then we'll have another meeting in February, okay? And we just tackle these small itty bitty things. But I feel like Gina's position would be the avenue for, hey, we have all these class reps. They work with all these systems here in game, and they're testing it for us. Then they funnel it through Gina, and then Gina should be our line to the devs. And because
100%.
because she can actually speak to them. Whereas the class reps, I don't know who they speak to, no matter how many times I listen to people talk about whatever. But I'm telling you, this is how I feel like it should be. We have all the massive players. They get funneled into the class reps, who are like, say, 10 people. And then from then it funnels into Gina, and then Gina takes from all 10 of them, just give me one thing. And then she sends that back to the devs. And then hopefully we see some progress. That's how it should be, I think. And Gina should be hosting. Like, how cool would it be if Gina had a once a month meeting with the class reps, right? I'm sure that would help the ZOS brand, and it would be really cool to watch them have all these discussions, right? Kind of like how they do those Supreme Court hearings or whatever that they post on. They do it live. I don't even know. I just see clips on YouTube, but you can see them. They're public, and I think that would help ZOS's image a lot in some way. Because we can actually see what's going on, and you can have like a live feed, people talking about this stuff, and then, hey, okay, we're gonna put some effort into surfboards, right? And then say they're working on that January, February. Did they meet the goal? No, we're still working on it. These are the issues that we're coming into. Blah 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 blah. Okay, cool. But then we can still have a next meeting. Hey, what's the next thing that we want to improve, right? Not something crazy like you said, like lag, but I don't know. DK leaping in Imperial City. Okay, we'll make that a thing. All right, why does it work everywhere else, but when you go into the IC, why does it not work there, right? Just small things like that. I think that's like a pretty solid idea.
Right. In the gym industry, you have a head coach, and the head coach will sit down with the athlete and figure out their fight camp, how to best utilize their time. You're getting ready to fight a collegiate level wrestler. We're going to work on defending takedowns, and maybe your striking is superior to the person you're going to be fighting. So we're going to want to try and keep the fight in the stand-up and brutalize them every time, or, make them pay every time they try and take you down. We're going to stay out of the clinch, and here's the game plan that looks like. They pass the game plan down to the other coaches. The jiu-jitsu coach knows what's going on. The wrestling coach knows what's going on. The striking coach knows what's going on. And each of them put a plan in play to implement to prep the fighter whenever they're working with that individual while they're in fight camp, to prep them for the fight. Now the larger gyms, they have that benefit. They have multiple coaches working with things. Maybe it's only one or two coaches, or they have one coach that knows how to do all of it and they're handling. And sometimes it's just all one person. But she needs to empower her class reps. And somebody out there is going to say they're already empowered, but there's always going to be someone that says something, right?
Oh, yeah.
Empower the class reps and have them gather the information, put the polls out on each of their platforms to figure out, here's what we want you to ask. Gina issues this. Class reps, here's what we want you to ask on your platforms. Gather the information for us. We're going to tabulate it, and then we're going to kind of start working through those as best as we can with regular updates. Now we've got communication. It's not just us crying into the void and fighting amongst each other, like children. So that's what I would like to see. And how many times do you recall me saying, man, I wish I was a fly on a wall in their meetings, because some of the decisions you're like, what is going on over there? Jeez,
Yeah, it's kind of unreal. Like, hey, I thought we had something good going on. What the hell is this?
Yeah. And we joke about it too. Like, do you remember when the new Vampire was getting a rework, right? And the best thing that came out with the Vampire release is broken werewolves.
Yeah,
Unkillable werewolves.
Yeah, the best thing that came out of the Vampire patch were the werewolves.
Right, and I was joking about how they had two separate teams working on it. We've got Team Vampire, and they're like, okay, guys, we want you to go to the drawing boards, figure out an entire class skill line for vampires, right? And then they look at, okay, Team Werewolf, you go to the drawing boards, figure out how we need to rework Werewolf to make it viable. And then they both come back, and everybody comes back. Team Vampire comes back with whatever we've got right now for vampires, and Team Werewolf comes back with a virtually unkillable, virtually unkillable thing at the time. So it was pretty funny.
Oh yeah, and they both went through.
Right? Yeah, that's the other thing too. Communication should start with, why even have a PTS? It does you nothing if you're not going to listen to, like, select people like Real Godzilla. Is there no one else? And the reason I say Real Godzilla is because he's on PlayStation 5. Is there no one else plays on PC and what?
Console.
Yeah.
Well,
so
console,
yeah, select the people that content creators that are going to the PTS, and they're looking for balancing problems, not class. Like, you're ruining my class. That's not the content creator you want to work with. But it's the content creators that are saying, if this goes live, it will be an unhealthy PvP. It'll be an introduction to PvP that's unhealthy, right? For new players or all players, whatever. And that's effective communication. But if you're not releasing your PTS with enough time to make any of those changes, then what's the point of the PTS? It's, silly.
So, I just had another brilliant idea, right? I got a bunch of them. So, because it's all about incentive, right? Because they make everything available on the PTS, but then I feel a common complaint is always, we don't have enough people going into the PTS to get in there. And I think mostly because there's no incentive. I'll be honest, I don't want to download another 90 gigs when my live character is not going to get nothing for it. Yeah, it's for the greater good of the game. Yeah, I understand that, but let's be honest, we're all not lowering our carbon footprint. Okay, so I think they should introduce just take the Endeavor system. They already have it there, but tailor it to the bugs that they want to address, right? So kind of how they have those, when you kind of like sign up for like a new account somewhere, and they want you to, oh yeah, prove that you're not a robot, and select all the signs or all the stop signs in there, and then even a human gets them wrong half the time, right? I think they need to implement things like that in the game where, hey, we're trying to figure out break free, okay, or some issues with break free, and then the endeavor is break free 20 times while in a duel or something like that, right? In Imperial City, okay, and then
Nobody gets it.
what was that?
Nobody ever gets it. They never get that endeavor.
Oh yeah, and I think with something like that though, it's like, okay, once you complete this endeavor, then it'll transfer to like your actual account, okay, and like kind of like how Twitch does the correlation thing there, and then hey, you'll get a crown crate or some BS like that, right? Give people incentive to actually log into the PTS. Hell, give me every time I complete a bug endeavor, okay, that they want to test in the PTS, I get a crown crate. Okay, give me one crown crate. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But hey, if I was gonna get free crown crates by actually helping them find bugs that they're trying to test, okay, that was in the PTS, I'd be in there every other day. I get all my bug endeavors completed because I'm getting crown crates. Or freaking give me 10 transmutation crystals per bug endeavor that I help solve, okay? Because in this case, it is for the greater good of the game, because they need people to test particular things. All right, just make it as some sort of game or some achievement that people can actually do in the PTS that translates over to your actual character. That's my idea.
I wonder, what's the cost associated with the PTS
What do you mean?
server? Like, they've recreated the entire game in this PTS server, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be a cost associated with that. What if all PvP took place on the PTS server and it came off of the main server where, the game currently resides? Like, would that, like, cut the server stress load, like, in half? If all PvP took place, like, so you could go into the main server right now and you could basically just delete Cyrodiil, delete Imperial City, delete all the battleground stuff. It doesn't need to exist over there on the main server. Anytime you queue for PvP, it ports you to the PTS server where it would be virtually lag free, right?
I'm just picturing everybody listening to this right now and saying, that's not how it works. You can't just go into the file explorer and just right click delete. That's not how it works.
Well, think about this though. Nephis was talking about particular trials when they run into coding problems and they'll literally just shut the entrance down to where it doesn't work. Right? So it doesn't work. So you can't zone into Cyrodiil. You just remove those zoning, like, you can't run into Cyrodiil anyways. You have to port in or queue in anyway. So why not, when you queue, it just populates you over to the PTS server where it should be virtually lag free, because the base game, you're not going to have the traffic of the base game over on the PTS server. Does that make sense?
I get what you're saying. I'm following what I'm picking up what you're laying down. Because if you think about it, when Mid-Year Mayhem comes around, I think even Rich admitted it once on one of his streams that, hey, we don't do anything new or different. We don't invest in any more money to purchase new servers or anything like that. It's just as simple as turning something on and turning something off when these additional servers come into play for Mid-Year Mayhem. So based on that simple logic, I'm going to make it very basic. Yeah, I don't see why they couldn't do that for what you're saying. Right? They just kind of take the PTS code, they add it to the list in the live game, and then they just turn off all the campaigns for Imperial City and Cyrodiil, and then we're just using the PTS code or whatever for the new PvP areas. I'm not sure how it will work for BGs, but maybe it's the same. I don't know. I can neither confirm nor deny any of this, but
yeah. I'm just thinking in regard to server stress, right? Stress or workload. Imagine if PvP is only 10 or 20% of the game, you know, but PvP is where it's most prevalent, like noticeable for whatever reason. What if we were to separate the two? PvE takes place on the main server where it's at, and anytime you PvP, you're moved to the PTS server and separate the stress load. And they can still send PTS stuff through the PTS server, and PvPers will experience or test that stuff live on, you know, like when Dark Convergence first hit the PTS, you know, and people are like, oh, no, this is bad, you know, like they would, it's 3 weeks of PTS, we're going to feed in some new armor or new gear to try that, and then we're pulling that out, and you're going to go back to, you know, what you had before launch or whatever. I don't know. I don't know exactly how that would work, but it would definitely alleviate some server stress load. It would have to, I would imagine. So.
Oh yeah, and I wouldn't have to download another 90 gigs to play on the PTS. They could even just add a campaign, say, hey, this is PTS Cyrodiil, Ravenwatch, or Blackreach, whatever. And then they could just disable the other servers, or they could even say, hey, if you play on the PTS, everything is doubled. Just to get people to go in there if they want to just stress test. Or they could just say, hey, during peak hours, we're going to actually disable this particular campaign. Or maybe just say, hey, on the weekends, we're going to open up the PTS for stress testing. But the PTS server is located on the live server. All you got to do is queue into it and then just do what you normally do.
Yeah. A dev's out there listening to this, and they're going, these guys are freaking morons.
or how any of this works.
Oh, yeah, we don't know how it works. Or he's going, why didn't we think of that?
Honestly, I think that sometimes. with some things that happen in life, it's just like, how did nobody think about this? But then, you know, of course, they certainly thought of the idea, but then it's just like, you know, you're 10 moves ahead of everybody, right? So then my idea would incur the wrath of the gods or something like that I never even thought of. So, but
yeah, some dev takes that to the next meeting. Hey guys, got this amazing plan, and next thing you know, he's like team lead or some lead developer. He gets a promotion.
Yeah, like, hey, isn't that what we said? Hey, I don't care that we said it first or gave you the idea. Just communicate and tell us something. That's all.
Right. Maybe that's the answer. Who knows? And, you know, it's simple things like that when we're talking about communication. It would be awesome if Gina or Rich Lambert or somebody came on the show and we could ask them things like that. What if we were able to ask one of them right now that question, and then they go, you know what? That's freaking brilliant. You know? Or they're like, wouldn't work because whatever, you know?
Yeah. And honestly, with all the updates and stuff that Rich says, I'm usually cool with it. And I think, at least from the way I sound, we're pretty nice people. At least I am. What do you think, Graham, about yourself?
I don't know. I like helping people. I know that. And then I also have a kind of a tipping point or breaking point where it's like, you know, hey, at a certain point, you're just stealing money from people. So.
Yeah. But yeah. Okay. Do you think we beat the communication thing down to death?
Yeah, Mr. Popular. I hear your phone ringing.
Yeah, it's one of the guys from my job. I should probably answer that, but it'll be all right. It'll be all right. And then you cut scene to, you know, there's like this tower falling down and there's flames abound everywhere, and so it's like, what's Icy doing? Oh, he's doing a show. Okay, you want to cover the Rich's wife's clip?
Yeah, I think as far as chronological order goes, that happened, and then Matt released his thing, but I don't know what day it was that Rich was doing his stream, and I don't.
Sometime last week, I think.
Okay, yeah, and see, I don't watch his stream regularly either. I only see clips from it from like Real Godzilla or Sawman UK or, you know, Fragment Saul, like clips that they cut to use to make a point. And so Rich's wife was sitting in the chair. She's basically running the stream, and Rich was sitting over her shoulder. And if you go to Fragman Saul's channel, he has a video. What's the name of the video? Let me see here. It's called Elder Scrolls Online PvP Fixes on the Way, so stop crying.
I love the thumbnail, dude. It's so funny. So good.
Yeah. So, and it's from January 11th. So if you go to Fragman Saul, you can see that video. But basically, Rich's wife, somebody asked a question about when her fixes coming to PvP, and she said, we're working on it. Stop whining, wah, wah, And
man. Too funny.
Yeah, the thing about it, like when I heard that, I was like, I guess that's how he plays the plausible deniability card. He's like, hey, that wasn't me that said that. That was my wife, And you could see him over his shoulder as soon as she started saying that, he'd like just puts his head down like, oh boy, here we go. And I think he even says, oh boy. So
I liked in Sawman's interpretation of it. He put subtitles underneath the parrot.
Oh, did he really? I missed that.
Yeah, and the parrot's kind of like trying to comfort Rich the whole time when he's just like kind of face palming into the chair. Oh my goodness, the parrot is really adorable, really funny.
Yeah, I missed that. Darn, I'll have to go back and watch it. But so here's the thing about that. She doesn't work for ZOS, okay? So that means that the only way she comes about her knowledge or her understanding of the current climate for PvP is communication with her husband, right? And the sentiment or the overall thought or the overall husbands and wives don't have to agree on everything. Like, this is the real world, right? Like, you don't have to agree on everything, but she will have not gotten the understanding of what's going on and understand the temperature, the room temperature of PvP and the fixes and everything without communicating with her husband. So that reaction stemmed from her husband and her communication. It had to, right?
I'm single. I don't know.
It had to. And so I just saw that and I was like, your wife is sitting in the chair and she's blasting paying customers. She's blasting paying customers like, stop being a baby. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm paying for a product that I'm not getting, and therefore I'm upset. Like, I don't know. I saw that and I was just like, holy crap, that's a can of worms right there. I wouldn't be surprised if he was told that he couldn't stream anymore, or don't you dare let her get in the captain's seat. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I could certainly see how that could be a problem, right? Because it would be... Yeah, no, I mean, like you're saying, right? It would say like your wife would come, like because you talk to your wife, I would imagine that it would be very easy for her to kind of speak on your behalf about what your thoughts are on the game. And it doesn't deny that, there's certainly truth to it, okay? Whether it comes from her or from you. So, yeah, no, it was definitely comical.
And here's the thing. Let's say you're talking to your wife, and let's say it's another topic. I'm talking to my wife, and we have different viewpoints on it, right? As I'm explaining the story to her, she's perceiving it in a different way, or she doesn't agree with my take on it. Okay? If that's the case, and I'm streaming, and I don't want to risk her upsetting paying customers, I probably don't let her sit in the chair, right? I don't give her an opportunity to say her side, which I didn't agree with. I don't give her an opportunity to say those things and make customers mad or risk my job. I don't know how serious it is for him, but I don't know. That's just me, like common sense. I don't agree with her take on it, and I don't want to risk that she lose my job for me or make a bunch of paying customers mad. So we're not going to, and it's a pretty touchy topic as well, right? It's a hot topic right now that a lot of people have different takes on. So it needs to be handled with delicacy as well, I think. Not blunt, mockery or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So, you know how, whatever happens at your job, technically, whether say you work in a secure facility or something like that, right? And obviously you shouldn't be talking to anybody about what goes on there except for the people that are in that space, but you go home and you tell your significant other anyway.
Right.
It's kind of funny, I think, when you think of it like that, right? Because could you imagine like your it's kind of like Tom Holland whenever he does the Spider-Man movies, right? They intentionally film different scenes for him because he can't be trusted. Because he'll go
Right.
on live and just blab everything out. And so to prevent that, they specifically, like I know with the, what was it, Infinity War scene or something like that, they filmed a whole bunch of things just to confuse him. Like he had no idea what was really going on. And because in the past, his history showed that he could not be trusted. So I'm not saying, when your wife is asking you, oh, hey, Grim, like, how's work? And, oh, yeah, it was fine. It was fine. It's probably should have a conversation, I would imagine. Just like, hey, yeah, you can't go on social media and say, the gym is, people who go to the gym are a bunch of jerks and are whatever, this and that, whatever. Because it's very clear that, okay, we share the same bed, we eat at the same dinner table. She's getting these ideas from somewhere, and they're probably going to be true to a high level. So
Yeah, that right there. And then in turn, when you take it a step further and you think, man, that's really his take on it. Like he already told you he doesn't like going to the forums, and he's probably just so tired and done with the complaining and, all the kids complaining and griping at him and directing those messages at him. And he's literally just trying to stream ESO and have a little fun with the community, and it goes sideways every time, right?
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, my heart goes out to him when I see that, because he's just, to me, as much as I like to say I'm ruthless and stuff like that and whatever, I care. And he's just trying to do a stream and whatever, but then people are always just jumping on him the whole time. It just kind of it annoys me a little bit, because people, they're trying to get something out of him, I guess answers in a way. And I'm not saying it's taking a toll, but you can tell sometimes.
You know what I was thinking? What if he were to run around with us? Like, go to Cyrodiil, go to Imperial City, do Battlegrounds with us? What if we were to hang out with him, I guess, and that's what he was doing on his stream?
Like a Let's Play?
Yeah, like a Let's Play, and we're going to run around and do some PvP today. We're going to run around with Grim from Grimsforge Gaming and Icyfire. Would that help his... he's out there and he's PvPing and he's, instead of, I don't watch his streams, but from what I hear, and who knows if it's accurate, but they're like, he does writs, he does trials, he does dungeons, doesn't touch PvP really, so.
I mean, I'm pretty sure if he did, one, I think it kind of makes him a little bit more vulnerable in terms of, maybe he might slip up on a question if he's not paying attention to what we're asking him, or maybe we're just kind of hanging out and just kind of shooting shit or something like that. But
yeah, that's all I would want.
Right, but then the other part is, is this, are we doing like a Let's Play, or are we gonna crack some skulls? Because if he's streaming this, which he absolutely should, because it's just content stuff. I know Sawman is gonna be freaking running and gunning for us. Okay, right in the sewers, and I'm sure a bunch of people are like, "Oh, freaking Rich Lambert, he's down in the Imperial sewers on EP side. Let's get him!" And hell, that's one way to drive traffic. And it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I like our chances. So it would be awesome. We could put some killers together, and if some people want to try and roll up, we've got 2 good PvPers in the audience right now listening. We could put some people together, and if anybody wanted to step up, we could hold our own. So.
Yeah, no, I'd be open to that. That'd be cool. It'd be
Yeah.
different instead of just like keeping it formal like it is now, just kind of loosey goose rolling
Yeah.
around.
I could get Deltia for sure. Deltia would be all over that. He would jump on that too.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Is there no one else? We could get him.
Hey, we get the whole heavy attack build crew that we did 2 months ago. Oh man, it's been 2 months. Jesus.
Yeah. We just tell Is There No One Else that we're testing a new Bard class.
There you go. That'll be fun. Okay. All right, ready for the next topic?
Yep.
All right, so Matt, I cannot for the love of anything pronounce this guy's last name. Matt, Firor. It's not Fiore. Fior.
Fior?
Fior.
Fior?
Not like Mein Kampf Führer, because it'd be like Fior. I don't know. Zos Matt F. Okay, we'll just say that. Zos F. So he left a post that came out on January 12th, the PvP updates, and I will do a read through here, and I guess we'll kind of talk midway or kind of stop and pause and whatever. So Matt says, it's long past time to give everyone an update on where we are with PvP improvements. As many of you know, we did a series of tests over the last year to give us more data. These tests were successful and gave us the information we needed. We now have a plan going forward, but heads up, it's going to take some time. I almost forgot that we did all those testing in 2020. So
yeah,
I'm glad, because I think they did make a post a while back saying that, oh man, what did they say? That nothing really came out of it? Or yeah, it was something weird. I don't know. But
I know a lot of people were for Battlegrounds going to all deathmatch. I was a little indifferent honestly for me. Like I already play all my Battlegrounds all deathmatch anyways, regardless of what playstyle it was. So it didn't matter to me. But I do know that and I talked about this on Nephas's podcast, I do know that there are some people that are really new to PvP and they would just prefer to have the, capture the relic, chaos ball, crazy kings, they would rather do those objective based PvP. And so the complaint is, well, they're avoiding PvP as a whole by doing that. And it's like, well, they're still in a PvP environment, but they're kind of easing into it, right? They're easing into the PvP instead of just jumping straight into the sweaty deathmatch. So that was my take on it.
Oh yeah, 100% agree, because I know when I was getting into PvP and before I was doing even PvP healing and BGs, I think it might even be my first ESO video on my channel. I got just BG clips that I did on my Stam DK, and if you notice, and if you ever go back and watch the video, none of those are death matches. They're all objective based ones, because for me, since I was so new and kind of green to being like a DPS or whatever in PvP, I was never good at dueling. I can't really hold my own in a 1v1. I mean, now I kind of can, but it really just bores me nowadays. But back then, if I went to a deathmatch, I just get smoked every time. I'm always going negative, and it was just kind of frustrating for me. So what I would do is always queue up for the objective ones, and I try to play as smart as I can, and not get myself into too much trouble, and always fight with my team and things like that. But for me, like you're saying, like the low barrier of entry, having those objective based queues provides another level of damage mitigation for me, because what's more important, trying to kill me or get the flag or follow the relic or something like that, right? And so in those moments, it helps me get a little better, build up confidence and stuff back then when I was starting out. So I kind of wish we still had that queue option, where I think back then it was even you could select deathmatch. They had 3 queues, right? Because it was all solo based at the time, so they separated everything out, and you can actually pick if you wanted to do certain ones. But yeah, no, I'm all for now going back to the solo queue, which I guess I wouldn't even mind nowadays. But I guess we can talk about that, how they are going back to having only 2 queues, 2 random queues, one for solo and one for group, and then calling it, because now they're just going to lump deathmatch in with everything else, and now it's hit or miss whatever you get, and everything's going to be deathmatch anyways at the end of the day, and you're now mixing the objectors with the deathmatchers, and no one's going to be happy except the deathmatch people. So interesting times. Okay, so back to this article here. In short, just like we did for the client a year or so back when we introduced multi-threaded rendering to increase client frame rates, we're going to re-architect our server, which to me sounds amazing. This is something I've been wanting to hear forever, because I know we've spoke about it months and months ago. The version of ESO in 2022 is many magnitudes larger and more complex than the ESO that launched in 2014. So in order to give everyone a good play experience in high intensity situations like PvP and trials, we need to essentially rewrite some of the foundational server code to account for it. This should dramatically increase server performance, but obviously we will need to test and evaluate as we go along. So just reading that whole paragraph there makes me think that there's a lot of hope for the future, that this game could actually be something amazing. And I'm actually looking forward to it, because yeah, I think later, well, I think when I touch upon it, they do mention it will take like a year for them to get done, which is fine, but they actually kind of gave a very generalized timeline, nothing too specific. But I know what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to keep playing the game, keep doing what I do, because I enjoy it, I'm having fun, and yeah, we'll see what happens. I hope it does happen. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. The thing about it is the dialogue they're using re-architect the code.
I love that, by the way. I just love that phrase.
Yeah. So that gives me hope. Re-architecting the code gives me hope, because they already flat out said new servers are not going to fix a problem. And if you think about it, keep in mind, I don't know anything about anything, but you buy a new server, you take the code from the game where it's currently at, and you move it over to the new server, you're still going to have a majority of the problems, right? Like, it's in the code, right? It's code degradation, it's code rot, it's things along those lines, right? It requires a re-architecture or redesign or redo, like creating new code, right? So when they said code re-architecture, I was like, okay, now we're talking. Like I had mentioned on Nephas's podcast about, look, if you can't get Take Flight to work, kill the code, rewrite the code. You know what the functionality you want for Take Flight to do. You know what the animation should look like. Neither one of them are working proper. Sometimes your wings get caught fluttering and flipping all around in craziness, and sometimes you take flight and it goes through 100% block. Somebody could be standing there holding block and it hits them for 100% damage. Or you'll take flight onto them and it knocks them up in the air, and then they hit the ground and take 26k fall damage, and then there's other times where you just can't take flight at all. So just trash the code and rewrite it, and I say that we'll just trash the code, not knowing what that entails, but just trash the code, rewrite it. In other words, re-architecture, right? Re-architect the code. And so I'm actually hopeful, and me, I've been skeptical. I wouldn't say I laid into the skepticism real heavy when we first met and you first started training in PvP, but the more we ran together, you started getting a taste for that, right? You're like, man, he really does not like not being able to break free or not being able to bar swap or not being able to...
The grim toxicity?
Yes. Yeah, you started seeing more of that, in those moments where we had those fights, we had everything laid out in front of us that we wanted, those outnumber fights, the really tough fights, the knockdown drag out fights, and then I can't break free, or we can't bar swap, or we can't use our gap closer, or execute stops working. And so it's just super annoying, and I was vocal about it. And so I think that that's great. As soon as he said that, not once have I ever heard them use that dialogue before,
Oh yeah, 100%. And
Yeah.
I remember when the post first came out, I was so it almost felt like a dream in a way, because like you said, they've never used this type of wording before. Re-architect the server, literally rewrite some of the foundational server code. Oh my God, like this is freaking perfect. This is exactly what we've been saying, not like we've been saying, putting it on YouTube and stuff like that, but in our private conversations with Papa, who does software engineering and stuff like that, this is kind of what he's been saying the whole time.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
need to do something super drastic, like re-architect the server, rewrite the foundational code to really fix these problems. And no, I'm happy.
Yeah, I know a lot of people listen to that. The podcast after me that Nephis just did, and he had some individuals on, and
The Tamriel podcast or a different one?
Nephis's podcast that he just did. So
His actual one. Okay.
Yeah, they were very skeptical, and they're like, seen it, heard it, don't believe it, kind of thing. And I'm like, it would be easy to fall into that category, but now if we find ourselves three years from now with zero outcome from that, you're going to have a lot of really mad people on your hands.
Oh yeah, 100%. And honestly, I mean, aside from the people that you're mentioning, a lot of folks, I think, were like that, and when they saw this response, just kind of had like a negative thing about it, with a small hint of, oh yeah, no, this I would love for this to happen, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. So I'm hopeful. I am enjoying Imperial City, and the times I die and I can't. It just happened earlier. I was on a lobby and couldn't break free.
But you have a much better, I think, compared to you say break freeing before New World came out, right? Whereas where you're at now, I think mentally, you seem to have a much more positive outlook, I'll say.
Yeah, I mean,
when
we knew
this bugs and stuff like that.
Yeah, we knew this going into New World, that the PvP in ESO is like no other game out there. New World's just a different type of PvP type game, and you go to another game and there's balancing problems. There's major problems with like duping, duplication of weapons and in-game stuff, and there's major balancing problems. ESO is farther along, which they should be. They're 7-8 years in now. They should have a better understanding of balancing. And that's another thing too, talking about balancing. I was on Nephis's podcast and we were talking about how broken Plague Break is. And if you have never used it before and you just read the tooltip, you're like, doesn't look broken. Put that on and go fight 3 or 4 people. You know how people like to stick together in a battleground, and watch the amount of pressure that you can put onto people with it. And the 2, 3, and 4 piece are not wasted. They're good 2, 3, and 4 piece, and then the 5 piece is just super strong. And then go in Imperial City where there's also NPCs in the mix, and you know that you can burn through an NPC quicker than you can a player. So you're just weaving in and out of this. You pull as many mobs as you can, and just make sure you hit them all with a direct damage thing. And then while you're fighting the player or the players, just nuke one of the NPCs and watch what happens. It's like the 4th of July. And so there's that aspect to Plague Break, and then the other aspect of it is it hinders really good PvP healers like yourself. Because we were talking about it, and you're like, if you were to ask the other team who the MVP is, they would they would list you because you were getting your team killed, right?
Oh yeah, the Renewing on Death, I think it's called on the Necro, that can cleanse your team if you cast the ability on a corpse. Oh yeah, it's freaking ridiculous. Why do I have to be punished drastically for cleansing my team with dots, right? Sometimes it's not a big deal, but say out of 10 BGs, maybe like 7 or 8 BGs, I'll be fine. But those 2 BGs, I'm just straight nuking my team. Not
Yeah,
intentionally, of course, but if it gets to a point where I actually successfully nuke my team, and it's funny, but then at that point I'm like, okay, all right, let me pull this off my bar and put something else on. It's just a bit ridiculous that a set actually eliminates certain skills in the game, which is a bit ridiculous. But it's kind of like when Malakath Band first came out and it prevented people from critting. It nullified the transmutation set because because people were running it. Well, why do I have an extra 1400 crit resistance coming in when you're not even critting?
right.
So to me, that just seems like for that particular example,
And
like an oversight.
think about the time frame too that this is going on. Proc sets are a problem. Like the damage isn't necessarily balanced on a lot of the proc sets, or the effects aren't balanced on a lot of the proc sets. So let's introduce another proc set, but let's make the 5-piece also have a negative effect when things are cleansed off of you. There's an explosion and a chain reaction and a bigger explosion. That's so freaking silly. It's so stupid. Like, we got proc sets running around the game, and you won't let healers cleanse people or let people cleanse themselves without causing a nuclear chain reaction. Like, come on. We need a little bit better thought going into this before things like that go live. So,
Yeah, because when I don't run cleanses, it's not really a big deal, I think. But if somebody dies with that thing on, or you cleanse prematurely, then everybody gets screwed.
yeah. So,
So
my next like 3 builds will have it in it, just so everybody knows.
so okay, I think I still got like 3 more paragraphs left of this thing. We've been planning this for the last quarter, and we're starting to work on it right now. But as you can imagine, changing the fundamentals of a huge live game such as ESO is a delicate and multi-step process. So expect this to take up much of 2022. Much of the early work is going to happen behind the scenes, and we are definitely not going to rush it, which is understandable. A re-architecture of this magnitude will require the entire game to be retested and evaluated, as this particular code is the foundation on which the game is built. I love everything that he just said there because
Yeah.
it sounds like they're actually going to do it, which is cool. And it will take
It,
tons of QA and testing time as well. And I'm sure that when the time comes, we'll do as large a test as we can on the PTS.
rewind to Rich Lambert's wife's comment.
Mm-hmm.
They knew that this was coming, right? Everybody, they had said it before. Rich had said, we're working on it, we're working on it. And then she said what she said there. If you think about what she said, oh, wah, we're working on it. Doesn't that give the impression that they're a little bitter about it, like having to work on it?
Yeah, yeah. Especially because if, say, you don't PvP and now you're being forced to work on something, but even then, right? It's not just PvP. You're fixing the whole game in its entirety, so everybody kind of benefits, even if it's some people that you don't like, but they pay anyway.
Yeah. Man, talk about a big undertaking. We're fixing the whole game.
Oh
Like
yeah,
we can't even fix getting the sword and board out, we're surfboarding on our weapons. Like, that's intimidating. That's intimidating. We can't even fix, or we're not going to fix the surfing on our weapons right now, but we're going to fix the entire game.
oh yeah, and those are big words. So I'm hopeful because if they're gonna say something like that, I'm sure people are going to make videos and they're going to save this on their desktops and say, hey, remind me 1 year from now, has this been accomplished or where are we at? So, but I think that comes down
Yeah.
to the communication thing that Gina was talking about. If they put out something like this, kind of just giving us progress on 2 times a month on how this work is going, I would love that, because I think for something that's this big undertaking, oh yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's kind of necessary.
Nid just messaged me and he brought up a good point. Let's talk about, like, if you're going to be re-architecting the code for the game, wouldn't now be a good time to actually talk about balancing, like class balancing? There are classes right now that need Plague Break or need Calorians or need these, nuclear capabilities to be viable, right? And then, Nid was talking about Magsork, and Magsork, his comment is, regarding balance, I wish Magsork would get nerfed to the ground. Crystal Frag, Fury, Curse, it's an easy melt. Add Elemental Weapon plus Overload and slap Calorians on, and it's, a 1 to 2 second fight. He's not wrong. I mean, but I would rather that type of PvP. That's the class. The class is strong, right? You don't need nuclear proc sets. You don't need nuclear capability proc sets to achieve damage. I wish the other classes were that way, and then it's easier to back proc sets down to make them not viable, right? Because you and I had talked about they need to be nerfed through the battle spirit passive to where it doesn't make sense to run a proc set unless you're running it for aesthetics or off meta type play. Right now, proc sets are not off meta play. Proc sets are meta play because they're so strong. They're doing more damage than class abilities and class ultimates. That's a problem. That's a balancing problem. So if you're going to be re-architecting the code, now's the time to take a really long, hard look at how the balancing of classes are set up and make sure that it's done right going into the new code. So I would look at Sorcerer in the opposite way. I'm not saying Nid's wrong. Nid's 100% right. Sorcerers feel really good. They feel really strong, and you don't need to put procs on them if you don't want, because you can put people away. If all classes had that same balance, and in that same moment proc sets were nerfed to where it doesn't make sense to run them when you can run other things that give you whatever, stat-based PvP, I think that would be something. Not only would performance be better, like lag and bar swapping and the stamina bug and blocking and basic fundamentals of the game, but all the classes were kind of on an even tier.
Mm-hmm.
You would really have something there.
Yeah, no. I don't think I have anything particular to say about that. I'm all for balance in all things, so anything that kind of puts us in that direction.
Yeah.
Okay. Last 2 paragraphs. In the meantime, we'll consider additional ways to keep Citadel and Battlegrounds interesting and exciting. For example, potentially special rule sets or weekend events. And we'll continue to work on bug fixes affecting combat, but we won't be adding any new features to PvP until the work mentioned above is complete. Doing so would not only prolong the fixes we want to implement, but would also exacerbate the issue of poor performance. We completely understand the frustration many of you are feeling, especially with lack of information about our PvP plans. This was a huge decision to make, and we needed to make sure we had exhausted all other possibilities before announcing this. Thanks for bearing with us, and we will give you periodic updates about the re-architecture progress over the course of the year.
So, for Battlegrounds, do a free-for-all.
A free-for-all? I don't know about that. As a CEC, that's the thing, Grim. As a PvP healer, you won't see me in BGs anymore. Because what am I going to do? Just sit there and tank, and then everyone's going to be like, oh, let's freaking bang on this guy. And it's like, well, I guess I'll just put on Harbinger or something. I don't know.
No, run the same mats, or run the same maps that you're currently running, and it's just an additional, like, weekend queue. It's a queue that it's like a fun. It's in the rotation, so I think that a free for all would be a fun thing that it rotates to.
Oh, okay, yeah. So in that respect, I'm fine. Say they do Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern to Monday 10 a.m. Eastern, right? So a what is that, 72-hour event or something like that. And you
Yeah.
just run some silly wacky game mode, okay, which you can opt into. Not everybody has to play it, but it's just available for 3 days or whatever. And people can just go nuts. And if you participate in this event, then you get double AP for your BGs or something like that.
Yeah, and
Or
you know
double
what?
rewards.
While you're at it, increase the rewards, right? Like
Yeah, double.
double the rewards. Yeah, 10
Yeah.
transmute crystals or whatever. Blues, he's in the audience right now too. Good PvPer for sure. He said you definitely need to have 2v2 in
Oh
there.
yeah, dude. Because I think there's 12 people. Just get 6 teams of two on two. Like that would be awesome. Oh my
Right.
god.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, 2v2s would be a lot of fun, and think about the comp and how that works. You know, you're going to see some people that have a pocket healer, and then you're going to see some people, like, you might even see two tanky McTankersons together. You know, you might get the trolley two healers together. You know, you'll see some weird stuff. Two Nightblades. Oof. You know, it'll be interesting.
Oh yeah, it would definitely be a lot of fun. I like that idea too. So you could do one week is free for all. The next week it's 2v2s only, right? And then the other week.
I would do a horde mode. We were talking about that a little bit, but horde mode would require you to put NPCs in it, and it's pick any one of the battleground maps, and it's the teams, and maybe each one of the teams have to hold. You know the area when you first drop down. Um, Take the Crazy Kings, like the flag.
Mm-hmm.
Your team has to hold the flag longer than all the other teams, and the enemy count progressively gets more and more. You know, I think that would be interesting. Now it's not PvP, so maybe that's 2 PvE, but I don't know.
Yeah, it would definitely involve way more work. That wouldn't be too hard to implement, right?
Yeah. Although the PvP side of it could be, you could send one person out to go and try and kill the other teams. If your team's going to last longer, you can go sabotage the other teams.
Oh man, I think League of Legends they've done stuff like that, and yeah, it's definitely a lot more work. And based on what Zos kind of wrote in there, I mean, it's ambitious. I'll give you that, Grim. But yeah, it's yeah. I don't know. It's kind of hard because if you're like, say, you're a high MMR and you're doing this wacky game mode, right? You're not gonna be able to 1v4, when everybody's a good player. You're just gonna get smoked instantly.
Yeah. So what about the Juggernaut? We had talked about that in the past. Like one person out of the
Oh,
group.
one guy has Emperor buff.
One guy has Emperor buff in the battlegrounds, right?
Yeah. Oh, how about like Star Wars, the um, Star Wars Battlefront, right? You're doing the BG normally, and then all of a sudden somebody gets randomly endowed with the Emperor buff for like 30 seconds or like a minute or something like that. I think that'd be kind of cool. And then after that, after the minute, his points get reset to 0. So then he's got to start again. So that way he can't just kind of snowball and freaking go crazy. So he can either get killed. If he gets killed while being in that mode, then if he gets killed while in that mode, then the person that killed him, got the killing blow, will become the new emperor. Otherwise, it'll just run out.
Yeah.
Maybe 60 seconds is too long. Maybe 30 seconds. Because 60 seconds, you can do a lot in 60 seconds.
Yeah. Do you remember, were you playing when the battlegrounds were first introduced and they actually had the 3 buffs? Yeah, so they had sigils out on the battlefield that you could pick up. One of them was like an armor buff. One of them was like a damage buff, and it was significant. It was like
this was PvP?
Yeah, it was battlegrounds. When battlegrounds were introduced, they had these sigils in the battlegrounds that you could pick up. And when you picked it up, your team got the buff, like a 25% damage buff or a major protection buff. And yeah, So maybe bringing the sigils back is a game style. It's just called sigils, and it's the battlegrounds with the sigils implemented back into them.
I could actually see that. Based on the way he phrased it, we'll consider additional ways to keep Cyrodiil and Battlegrounds interesting and exciting. Special rule sets or weekend events. So, well, now that the sigil thing actually was a thing, I could easily see them bringing it back for like a weekend event. And
Yeah.
that actually sounds kind of cool. It would actually give people incentive to want to capture a buff because, say, you and, say you're team red and I'm team black, and then we got this other team green. Why am I even making up colors? Orange, purple, and green, right? So orange and purple are just fighting each other the whole time, and green team is the only ones capturing flags, right? Well, how about you give green team, every time you capture a flag and you hold it, you get a buff. And now green team can actually go um, fight the other two teams and just mop them up, no problem. Which would then force the other ones like, okay, we can't just ignore green team. We actually have to capture some flags because they are freaking buffed up with all the major buffs in the game.
Yeah.
Now we kind of force the pure PvPers who only want to do deathmatch to actually capture objectives because you're going to get significant buffs if you have them or don't have them.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a
Yeah.
good point.
Because I'm pretty sure, Grim, as much as you like to just pure deathmatch all the objective modes, if all the other teams are getting major buffs and you're unable to really be successful because they have the buffs and you don't, I think that's going to change your tune real quick.
You got a point. You got a point. What about allowing siege for a weekend? You can actually use siege inside the battlegrounds.
That would be comical.
Yeah, yeah. Or yeah, see, you would have to add new code or new items, but like traps and different things. But I guess using siege would be. It would also be difficult. Well, I don't know. It depends on. So, what if it's capture the flag or capture the relic, and siege is allowed? So you could actually set siege up to defend your relic.
That would be funny. I mean, I'm just not sure how hard it would be to implement, but yeah, no,
Right.
that's certainly an idea.
Yeah. What about they don't have mounted weapons, but what if while you were on your horse, you could carry a spear and
All
you
right,
could
Grim. All right, I'm gonna have to reel you in because now you're getting your ideas are getting too crazy, and Matt already said that they're not gonna do anything too crazy like that. So you're gonna have to rein them in. But I like the way you're thinking. I like the way
Hey,
you're thinking.
hey, if we can run on top of our horses, why can't we carry a spear on top of our horses?
That's a good argument. And the funny part is the running on your horse is an accident. So,
Right.
but it's an accident that kind of gives you an idea. Huh.
Yeah, you just have a spear out in front of you, and so you do damage if you hit somebody with the spear, right? So you're now all of a sudden we have like fencing or not fencing, but
Jousting.
jousting. Yeah, we have jousting. Now we like our 4-man squad. 2 of us mount up, and the other 2 are on foot. And I don't know
Oh,
that.
that kind of gave me another idea or not an idea, it made me remember something. Didn't they try to do something like that? Where I know that being able to share somebody's mount, right? So you could put 2 people on one horse. I know that was like a thing, but I guess it didn't work out, or they had some coding issues that just kind of made it not feasible, or it was going to be way more work. But I feel like somebody said once that they were going to try to put weapons on your mounts, or like maybe put I forget, like the samurais on horses, right? So you can actually use a bow while you're on your mount or something like that. I thought that was like an idea, but it just proved to be too complicated to implement, and then that's where they kind of scrapped it.
Yeah, I'm literally just thinking have your horse do knockback or frontal damage when you collide, right?
I mean, it would
And
definitely be funny if like I could see Sawman making some funny videos where he just kind of rams people at like full Mach speed,
yeah,
Yeah.
and he'd be the person that figures out how to get his horse to teabag someone. So,
Oh yeah. Oh, you could put your horse on them and then do the rear back, when you hit jump and they kind of do the
yeah,
neighing thing. Yeah.
yeah, that'd be funny.
Yeah, that would be comical. But then you get reported. So, okay. So that kind of covers everything that we had on the list. Anything else you want to talk about, Grim, or we can wrap this up here? I know it's been we're certainly over an hour.
Yeah, I think we're good. We're good.
Cool.
I'll go have dinner with the family and watch some movies.
Awesome. All right. So I think I normally tell people that we have a Discord that you can join us in if you'd like to hang out with us. We are coming back or making our presence known again, which is pretty nice. And I think we also do have, it's been a while, an audio only version of the podcast on Anchor. If you'd like to listen to that, we always put a link in the description to Anchor and the Discord as well. So be on the lookout for that. And yeah, we'll catch you guys next week, maybe the following week. We'll see. We're not really going to put a schedule on this. We're just kind of chilling and having fun. So yeah, we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.
There you go.
You're going to say, bye-bye, Argonians.
Bye bye, Rogonian.